One thing that has always intrigued me about Finnegans Wake is how personal it is. It really exudes personality, and this might surprise one considering the reputation that Finnegans Wake has as an impenetrable text of wordplay and jokes. But in actuality, we can see that what's really being talked about in Finnegans Wake, among many things, with regards to the feminine, is the complexity of the feminine for Joyce specifically. Now, Joyce had a very loving mother and a very loving wife, Nora, who, despite her not always getting Joyce's work, she even said once Finnegans Wake came out and all the critics were still worried about Ulysses, she contended that Finnegans Wake is where it's really at, and that's where people's critical efforts need to be going. So Nora was always a really comforting presence in Joyce's life. She followed him to his various hundreds of locations that he lived throughout his life in Zurich and Trieste and Dublin. And in this lecture, to accompany the one that I've done on HCE, which similarly discusses the character traits, I would like to look at ALP as a character through a survey of some of the passages that really highlight her key traits, because ALP is the most complex and contradictory character in Finnegans Wake. She represents a dynamic libidinal force that permeates throughout nature, a sort of élan vital that pushes things to differ, change, become. As such, she is dynamic like the water, and the primary thing that is used to personify ALP is in fact water, waves, and sound, because sound is a wave. Therefore, the sonic focus of Finnegans Wake really comes to the fore in passages concerning ALP, where we really see ALP come to life as nature's lullaby. Joyce gives us a general description of ALP, writing, "The upper reaches of her mouthless face and her impermanent waves were the better half of her, one nearer him, dearer than all, first warming creature of his early morn, bondwoman of the man of the house, and murmurer of all the Machiavics, she who had given his eye for her bed, and a tooth for a child, till 1 and 1 10 and 100 again, oh me and oh ye, cadet and prim, the hungry and angrine, and if she is older now than her teeth, she has hair that is younger than thine, my dear. She who shuddered him after his fall, and waked him widowed sparing, and gave him keen and made him able, and held Atzilas in each arch of his nose, she who will not rast her from her running to seek him till, with the help of the Okamic." And we can really see the nurturing presence that ALP brings here. She's impermanent, and yet nevertheless she's near and dear, and a bondwoman to HCE, a wife that stays with him through all of the ups and downs and provides a sense of respite. And one of the points of respite for Joyce was silence. Not only is he concerned with sound, with the expressive capabilities of overwhelming and overflowing sound, but also the lack of sound in certain momentary places. And he finds a beauty in silence that connects to ALP. Who would have ears like ours, the black-haired? Do you like that, Silencio? Are you enjoying this same little me, my life, my love? Why do you like my wisping? Is it not divinely delicious? But isn't it bad for you? Missy, tell me till my thrill me comes. I will not break the seal. I am enjoying it still. I swear I am. Why do you prefer it in these dark nets? If why, my ask, my sweetikins? Shh, long ears is flying. There's something so passionate and personable about this passage. This sense as if we have a partner whispering in our ear as we stir in sleep, and we awake to the silence of the day, silencio, and our ears almost give us a sense of respite, because Joyce was always privy to the openness of the ear, the way that it allows for a constant interplay between our environment and ourselves, and the affective immediacy that goes along with such experience, such that even in sleep we are being confronted by silence. And that silence can be seen as both emptiness and the pregnancy of an open moment ready to be grasped, ready to be wrested from its place and filled with some creative capacity. Just a few lines down from that passage, we get one of such contradictory moments that I spoke of, where now, rather than seeing beauty in silence, we see beauty and joy in sound, in laughing, in uproarious noises. As I'd live to, oh, I'd love to, liss, I must whiss. Never that ever, or I can remember, dear streaming faces, you may go through me. Never in all my whole white life of my matchless impair, or ever for bitter be the fruit of this hour. With my whiteness, I thee woo, and bind my silk breasts I thee bound. Always amory, amor and more, till always thou lovest. Shh, so long as the locksmith laughs. There's such a dense interplay between the silence, the shushing noises, and the uproarious laughter and these sort of proverbial phrases of exaltation going on here. We can really see the personality of Joyce directly stemming onto the page that occurs because Joyce opens up language and lets it be a lot more onomatopoeic. Now, considering that ALP, Anna Livia Pluribel, stands chiefly for the River Liffey, which bisects Dublin and really acted as its life force, historically speaking, this is what allowed it to become a prominent port city and thereby the capital of Ireland. Despite this, the Liffey was renowned for being extremely dirty. And Joyce actually interpolates this into Finnegans Wake in a way that really gives credence to the complexity of the feminine for Joyce personally. Speaking of amnis limia permanent, upon the most unconsciously beggy-looking stream he ever locked his eyes with. Out of the callings it took a rise by daubing itself nigh anon. It looked little, and it smelt of brown, and it thought in narrows, and it talked show shallow. And as it rin it dribbled like any livy pertileasy. My, me and me, little downstream, don't I love thee. This is a very explicit homage to the Liffey, to its dirty brown smell, to its almost uncomfortable consistency. And within that, we find a chance for praise. It reminds me of Gerard Manley Hopkins talking about celebrating the dappled things, the things dappled with dew, and also the refuse of society. I think Joyce was very much trying to do that. Here's an onomatopoeic tour de force regarding the Liffey. The sis of the wisp of the sigh of the soft sing at the stir of the vergrosa, o arondo of a long one in medias reeds. And shades began to glitter along the banks, greepsing, dusk unto dusk. And it was as glooming as gloaming could be in the waste of all peaceable worlds. Metamnesia was all sunom colour of form brune. Cythereor Spian and Eulond, Eneramoros and Anaromoros. The Muxe had a sound eyes, right, but he could not all hear. The Gripes had light ears left, yet he could but ill see. He ceased, tongue and trit, and it was never so ever so dusk of both of them. But still moo thought on the deeps of the aunts he would profoundeth come the morrocks, in still grief, field of the stripes, he would escape if by grace he had lucken ups. Oh, how it was dusk! From Valley Maria to grassy Plania, dormimost echo, adieu, adieu. It was so dusk that the tears of night began to fall, first by ones and twos, then by threes and fours, at last by fives and sixes and sevens, for the tired ones were wecking, as we weep now with them. Oh, 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 par la pluie. Now, the Moksha is a character in Finnegans Wake that I still don't exactly know who or what he is, but he's very important and continues to come back in these little childlike phrases where you have the Moksha and the gripes. But here we can see that one can ill see and all hear. Eyes have been shut, ears have been open. We're deep within sleep, and we're listening to the wisps of the air, of the waves perturbing the air itself and delivering us sound. He continues, and there were left now an only elm tree and but a stone, palled with Beatrice, sere but sole, oh yes, and Nuvolota, alas. Then Nuvolota reflected for the last time in her little long life, and she made up all her myriads of drifting minds in one. She cancelled all her engagnements. She climbed over the banisters. She gave a childy, cloudy cry, Noé, Noé. A light dress fluttered. She was gone, and into the river that had been a stream. For 1,000 of tears had gone on her, and come on her, and she was stout and stuck on dancing, and her muddied name was Mrs. Liffey. There fell a tear, a single tear, the loveliest of all tears. I mean for those Cry Love Fables fans who are keen on the pretty, common-face sort of thing you meet by Hope Harrods. For it was a leap tear, but the river tripped on her by and by, lapping as though her heart was brook. Why, where, oh where? I so silly to be flowing, but I cannot stay. So we get a sense of the impermanence of the feminine, of nature and of the earth itself, that cries tears as it changes, because we, as people who want to preserve things the way they are, we want things to stay. And yet, nevertheless, the Liffey continues to flow, as Heraclitus talks about rivers. When asking, can we step into the same river twice? Heraclitus presents us with the timeless paradox, which is that in some sense we can, right? You step into the Liffey at point A, and you come back a year later at point B in time, and you step into the Liffey, and it's still the Liffey. But is it still? The waters have all changed. All the individual parts that make up the whole have shifted. So we may ask, is this still the same Liffey? Indeed, Joyce really tries to bring that paradox to the fore here. And he always wants to connect the word to ALP. That she is some utterance that is coming out of Joyce's unconscious, out of HCE's unconscious, out of the whole of humankind's consciousness. And when we do so, we see that there is something very powerful about words when they go beyond the typical constraints of everyday language. Joyce writes, my unchanging word is sacred. The word is my wife, to expound and expound, to vend and to venerate, and may the curlews crown our nuptias, till breath us depart. Woman, beware would you change with my years. Be as young as your grandmother, the ringman in the wrong shop, but the right words by the rote order. And we almost get a parody on the idea of order there, on the idea that an aesthetic project should be about keeping words in a particular order, that it's about reaching some ordained state of perfection. I think Joyce really tries to challenge that in Finnegans Wake. Because since we've gone past the constraints of the language of a novel, of any kind of book, really, we no longer have the fetters telling us whether or not we've done a good job. Joyce's book is very singular. Perhaps the only other close comparison would be Schmidt-Settler's Traum. But here we are free from a sense of completion. So Finnegans Wake is an unchanging word insofar as the words that are on the pages are always going to be Finnegans Wake, and Finnegans Wake will be Finnegans Wake 10 years from now, 100 years from now, 2,000 years from now. And there's something sacred about it because Joyce always wants to play with the importance of sacred texts. For example, the Quran is featured fairly often in Finnegans Wake. The name of every single surah of the Quran, every chapter, is mentioned in Finnegans Wake. We have several detailed descriptions of the times of prayer, of what you do when you do ablution, when you prostrate, all of these things. Joyce was very keen on the religious aspect of texts and of life. And I think he wanted to secularize that a little here, because he always bastardizes religion in a way where my unchanging word with a capital W, which of course harkens to the logos from the beginning of the Gospel of John, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Here, Joyce is creating his own God. It's a sort of polytheistic play of multiplicity going on, in which sound trumps dogma, trumps any logical sense of progression, of character, of setting, of plot. And I think that really gives this text its edge. Now, I really like this passage I'm about to read to you because it represents some of the highest standards of beauty in the English language, in my opinion, and one of the greatest passages in Finnegans Wake, and it displays a stark sense of progression. We'll see it sort of Liffeying away to the point of almost disappearing aniente, to nothing. And I think it really captures a sense of being inundated with not only innuendos, but with desire. A real deluge of a time. Speaking of joy day dawns, he says, "It is to you, firstborn and first fruit of woe, to me, branded sheep, pick of the waste paper basco, by the tremors of Thondry and Oleron's dog-star, you alone, wind-blasted tree of the knowledge of beautiful and evil. I, clothed upon with the meteor and the shimmering like the Horsens, Astroglodinamonologos, the child of Nilfit's father, Belsp to me unseen blusher in an obscene coal-hole. The Kobilibum of your secret sigh, dweller in the down and outermost, where a voice only of the dead may come, because ye left from me, because ye laughed on me, because, O my lonely son, ye are forgetting me, that our turf-brown mummy is a-coming, Alpilla, Beltilla, Celtilla, Deltilla, running with her tidings, all the news of the great big world. Sonny's had a scrap, woe, woe, woe. Bab's baby walks at 7 months, way, way, way. Bride leaves her raid at Punkus time. Stood stoned before a race-course full, 2 bells that make the one appeal. Dry Yanks will visit old sod, and 4-tiered skirts are up, Miss Dames, while Paramicney wears popular short legs and 12 house to mix a tipsy awake. Did ye hear, Cold Cooney? Did ye ever, Philly Fortescue? With a beck, with a spring, all her real ringlets shaking, rocks drops in her tatchy, trum tokens in her hair, all waved to a point, and then all innuendation. Little old-fashioned mummy, little wonderful mummy, ducking under bridges, bell-hopping the wares, dodging by a bit of bog, rapid-shooting round the bends, by Tallacht's green hills and the pools of the Pooka and the place they call it Blessington, and slipping sly by Sallynoggin, as happy as the day is wet, babbling, bubbling, chattering to herself, deludering the fields on their elbows learning with the slithering slide of her. Giddy-gaddy, Granny-ma, Gossipacious Ann Olivia. He lifts the life wand, and the domes speak. Quick, 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 quick. Such a stunning passage, because we arrive from discussing the firstborn, the first fruit of woe, to the tides of Anna Livia Pluribel. And we get this alpilla, beltilla, siltilla, deltilla. This is A, B, C, D. So really getting a primacy of language here. We're counting from 1 to 7. So we're also getting a progression in numbers. And then we finally get this beautiful image of the Liffey, which is bell-hopping the wares, dodging by a bit of bog, rapid shooting round the bends. It's turning round and round and round, and it's slipping sly by, happy as the day is wet, which I think is a really beautiful phrase. And then it ends with this life wand that makes the dumb speak. And what do we get? We get this mysterious long word of cues. And it's so sensuous just to speak. It almost forces one's voice to go as softly as it can. Really powerful stuff here. Here's a really onomatopoeic passage describing the sounds of the sea. Drop me the sound of the fine horn's name, Matu or Mati, some bugger was westness. And drip me why in the Flanders was she frickled? And trickle me through was she Marcella waved, or was it weirdly a wig she wore? And which side did they droop their glows in their flurry, a back to west or front to sea? In fear to hear the deer so near, or longing, loth and loathing longing? Are you in the swim, or are you out? Oh, go in, go on, go an. Joyce's command of rhyme and rhythm is really apparent here. The way that he mixes alliteration with onomatopoeia, with these very vivid, very sensuous descriptions, really helps to articulate the wake, as it's called on the next page, as a Wakeschrift, right? A wake writing. And like HCE, ALP can really stand for all the female characters in Finnegans Wake, because we have Anna Livia Pluribel, but we also have Izzy, the daughter of Tim Finnegan. And Izzy is a parallel of Joyce's own daughter, who was a suffering schizophrenic. And I think there's really a sense of trying to tarry with that confusion, with that chaos of mental health in Finnegans Wake when describing ALP, because water can of course be beautiful, but it can also be terrifying in its multiplicity, in its multifarious twists and turns. Here's a passage where we really get a portrait of the water in all of its detail. She made herself title to join in the masquerade. Oh, gig goggle of gigwills! I can't tell you how. It's too screaming to Rizzo, rabbit it all. Minaha, minahi, minahe, minaho. Oh, but you must really. Make me hear it gurgle gurgle, like the fairest gargle gargle in the dusky dirgle dargle. By the holy well of Muddleheart, I swear I'd pledge my chancer, getting to heaven through Tyrion Killy's mount of impiety to hear it all. Every word. Oh, leave me my faculties, woman, a while. If you don't like my story, get out of the punt. Well, have it your own way, so. Here, sit down, and do as you're bid. Take my stroke and bend to your bow. Forward in and pull you over the posy. Lisp it slanny and crisp it quiet. Deal me longsome. Tongue your time now. Breathe that deep. Thou'st the fairway. Hurry slow and shalt you go. Lend us your blessed ashes here till I scrub the cannon's underpants. Flow now, o'er more, and pulley. Here we're really trying to soak in every word. He continues, and after that she wove a garland for her hair. She pleated it, she plaited it, of meadow grass and river flags, the bulrush and waterweed, and a fallen griefs of weeping willow. Then she made her bracelets and her anklets and her armlets and a jetty amulet for necklace of clicking cobbles and pattering pebbles and rumble down rubble, Richmond and rare of Irish runner stones and shell marble bangles. So we're getting a very detailed image of the shimmering of the water and of ALP pleating and plaiting her hair like meadow grass in river flags. And one of the chief philosophical characteristics of ALP is that she stands for the eternal return of nature, or the Luz later. And the eternal return is difference. It is difference that cannot come back as anything but difference. It is chaos that never comes back, but the same chaos anew. The same underlying struggle, always in new permutations, always new elements. Thus, there is a motor at the very core of existence for Finnegans Wake that allows for the possibility of creation, which is in fact represented by ALP. She's fading out like Journey's clothes, so you can't see her now. Still, we know how day the dyer works, in dims and deeks, in dusks and darks. And among the shades that Eve's now wearing, she'll meet a new fiancé, tryst and trow. Mammy was, Mimmy is, minusculines to be. In the deed dips a dame, and the dame desires a damsel, but the damsel dresses dolly, and the dolly does a dozy damble. The same renew. For though she's unmarried, she'll after truss up and help that husband how to hop. Hip it and trip it and chirrup and sing, Lord Chuffy Sky Seraph and he glugs got to swing. So and so, toe by toe, to and fro they go round, for they are the Ingels, scattering nods as girls who may, for they are an angel's garland. Such a beautiful passage where the rhyme really adds to the flow of this passage. The flow of time, of difference, of change, of these repetitious words and sounds at the same time. It really is a beautiful explication of the dialectic between difference and repetition, the importance of consistency through repetition, and change and originality through difference. And I think ALP really serves the scope of Joyce's project in Finnegans Wake because through her and through the proclivity of sound which she represents to sort of gush forth, she allows nature itself to speak. In the house of breathings lies that word, all fairness. The walls are of Rubenin, and the glitter gates of elfinbone. The roof hereof is of massicious jasper, and a canopy of Tyrian awning rises and still descends to it. A great cluster of lights hangs there beneath, and all the house is filled with the breathings of her fairness. The fairness of fondants, and the fairness of milk and rhubarb, and the fairness of roasted meats, and onion margarettes, and fairness of promise, with consentia and avowals. There lies her word, you reader. The height hereof exalts it, and the lowness her down abasseth it. It vibro-verberates upon the tegmen, and prosplodes from Pomera. A window, a hedge, a prong, a hand, an eye, a sign, a head, and keep your other auger on her pay. And you have it, old Sem, pat as I be seated, and Sonny, my gander, he's coming to land her, the boy which she now adores. She doors. Oh, backed von dem Zug, make weg for their tug. So we're really making way for nature here, for the tug of nature, of milk, rhubarb, meats, all of these various natural things that are found, that are used. It's a real sense of symbiosis, of the collectivity and synchronicity of existence. A further echoing of the cyclical nature of water and therefore of being. I'm harking back to Heidegger's Sein and therefore the river Sein. He states, "For as Anna was at the beginning, lives yet and will return after great deep sleep, re-rising in a white night high, with the cows of Drumheim, as shower as there's a wedding clouded in West Wicklow, or a little black rose a traunt in a thorn tree. We dreams our dreams till Bappy returns, and thine anews. We will not say it shall not be, this passing of order and order's coming, but in the herbest country and in the country round Blath, as in the city self of legions, they look for its being ever yet. So shuttle the pipers done, Aric a boy, and it's time that all paid tribute to this massive mortality. The pink of punk perfection is photography in mud. Some may seek to dodge the goblet for its quantity or quality, but who wants to cheat the choker's got to learn to chew the cud. All which all scrubs on scroll, circumenium illuminated have enconiums here and improperies there. A really complex passage, but we get some fairly clear markers of what's going on here. The beginning lives yet, will return after great deep sleep, which is a sort of promise, right, that something will change if we merely try to encounter the world. And through this shower of the wet and clouded world, we dream our dreams till Bappy returns. And the Sein anews, the river Sein, but also the German Sein for being, renews over and over and over. And that really long word is very reminiscent of the word circumambulated, right? Or circumference. And we're circumambulated by a sort of luminiferous sense of possibility. To conclude this lecture, here's a brilliant, gentle wave world for you. Pious and pure fair one, all has concomited to this, that she shall tread them live trees' leaves, whose silence hitherto has shone as sphere of silver fastal barnstone. That fount Bandusian shall play liquic music, and after odors sigh the musk. Blots blosh bloth, one deer that was, sleep in the water, drug at the fire, shake the dust off, and dream you're one who would give her side curls too. Till later llamas is led in by Baith, our washwives, a weird of wonder tenebrous as that evil thorngarth, a field of fairy blithe as this flowing wild. A tremendous explication of the personality, the fluidity, the sensuousness present in Joyce's writing. And I hope that on the whole, this gives a deeper appreciation for Finnegans Wake as a text as a whole, but also ALP's character, the sort of lugubrious presence that she exudes on the page, and the excitement that can come with reading any passage in which she is even obliquely present. That being said, that's it for this lecture. Consider checking out any of my other ones I've done on postmodernism, German idealism, gender theory, post-colonial studies, and other classic literature. You can also become a channel member for $5 a month and gain access to, among other things, a private philosophy Zoom, which you can tailor to your needs. I also have super thanks if you'd just like to give a one-time donation to the channel, because it really helps take some pressure off of me and know that my work matters to people, but no pressure. That's it for this lecture, and I'll see you in another one.